Hello, V Gates. My name is Third, and a little unknown fact about me is that I'm actually the love child between the Creeper and either Danny or Curtis. We actually have no idea. Some say both. That's why I got a platform so quick, and that's why I'm so funny. Whoa. Stay away from me, okay? I'm part Creeper, so if you get too close to me, I'll, On May 2nd of this year, I got the opportunity to go on a field trip with my school to the Edu Filmfest, a film festival held in Minneapolis that spotlights student filmmakers and, obviously, student films. I personally didn't have a submission this year, but my good emo pal Abby had one with her short film, VITIATE, a short film about her own struggles with finding the color in her life after her boyfriend broke up with her. Listen, I'm not gonna stand here and pretend and say that I helped make the thing, because I didn't, but I sat next to Abby in our film class and watched as she edited it. So I can't help but feel like a proud dad who is unattentive to his child otherwise and uses weaponized stupidity to avoid chores. I really just can't help but feel like, so I might be biased when I say that I think that VITIATE is a work of art. Abby poured her heart and soul into it to the point where she voiced to me how difficult it was to film and direct and edit this piece because it pulled, directly from a very difficult and emotional time in her life. Part of the script was legitimately a copy-paste, text message from the man we do not speak of. Safe to say, despite the fact that I literally did not do anything, I am very proud of this short film. When it was accepted to be shown at EDU, Abby and I were both ecstatic. In 2024, she was nominated for Best Experimental with her film Dark Man in My Room, a film about a girl with schizophrenia. She didn't win this award, it was her first time submitting, and there were a lot of things she could and did improve on for her next film. VITIATE is such a step up production-wise, compared to Dark Man in My Room. It's very readable, there's actors and a script instead of just music, there's insanely cool and, trippy editing, and it's got a sick-ass poster! Look at that! But then April 4th came along, and I'm actually pretty sure that it was later than April 4th, but Film Freeway says April 4th, so I'm sticking with that, and we found out that VITIATE was, in fact, not nominated for anything. It was selected to be shown, but it was not nominated. VITIATE isn't the best film ever made, and hey, maybe I'm insanely biased, and someone who rates every movie a max of 3 stars outside of Interstellar, which they give a 5, is gonna comment about just how biased I am and that I deserve nothing good in my life. But then again, guys, VITIATE is, obviously a student-made film. It was filmed with a DSLR, with Apple Voice memos as the mic, with a $0 budget, and with Abby's sister and her friend as the actors. Obviously, it isn't gonna be this perfect, high-quality film with a huge budget, but Abby also did, a really super-duper good job with what she had, in my opinion. How dare you not nominate my child? I may be an unattentive father, but I will not stand for the exclusion of her. Her? Him? They? What gender is a movie? That was not helpful. The film. It's a boy. So, obviously, naturally, Abby and I were both kind of mad and kind of confused about the whole thing. We later found out when we saw the screening of VITIATE that they were given the wrong version of it that was, very poorly edited, which is probably why she wasn't nominated. However, before we, and more importantly Abby, figured that out, we did a little bit of research and stats and found out that, 3/4 of the films that were nominated for an award were either international or one from this arts surrounding high school in Minnesota. I can't really say much about the international films because the EDU Filmfest website does say it's for filmmakers worldwide. I just think it's odd for someone that can't come to a film fest because they live on the other side of the world to submit their film to a film fest. Again, there aren't any restrictions on who can or cannot submit, region-wise, but still. The arts high school part, though, is interesting. This is a festival meant to highlight student films that, because they are made by teenagers, might not have the resources to make an amazing film, whether that be actors, equipment, or just plain old cash money. Pretty much only selecting students from films where they were provided that equipment and those actors kind of defeats the purpose of it, I guess. I don't really think that no films from the high school should be selected to be screened or nominated, but I do think that maybe, limit the amount of selected films that can come from a school, or nominated films that can come from a school. Just a little itty-bitty suggestion. Anyway, that doesn't matter. This whole long intro was to explain the fact that, I was mad, so I made this video. Yeah, the whole situation got me thinking about the different pushes and pulls in the entertainment industry that help people be successful, or whatever. But before I go on, obviously don't go harassing the people at EDU Filmfest, obviously. It is a very, very good and fun event outside of that small thing, which will hopefully be fixed come next year. It is completely run by people that are not being paid to be there. So, you don't be mean. okay? Moving on. First on the list, nepo babies. Nepotism is an idea that states that someone with ties to an already famous person or already well-known person, whether those ties be familial or romantical or platonical or baby blue to match a prom dress, will become famous or well-known or have more privilege in some ways because of those ties. Nepotism originates from the Italian word nepotismo, which sounds like a superhero. Isn't that the plot to, what's the show? With the dad, you know? Invisible? No, that's not right. Nepotismo. It sounds like an Italian brain rot thing. Nepotismo babunio. I guess it can't really be true brain rot though, since everyone knows that an Italian brain rot character has to burn down a billion trees just to exist. Not this guy though. This guy was made with my phalanges. A more common term for nepotism is nepo baby, which specifically refers to when one famous parent and another famous parent that may or may not be famous mash their DNA together and maybe steal some guy's identity in the process in an effort to become an astronaut and to no longer be discriminated against because of their weak DNA, and make a baby that is set for life. This baby's gonna have everything: fame, money, opportunities, zero privacy, and on our IMDb you'll find a paranormal TV show set in the 1980s. Spoiler alert, her character's a lesbian! Nepo babies are a pretty commonly criticized topic in the entertainment industry because anytime a nepo baby stars in a big film or has a spike in fame for whatever reason, people will talk about it if it's because of talent or if it's because of their parents. Not to say that every single nepo baby is an untalented swine who deserves nothing more than to have every single opportunity taken from them. Obviously, like, there are a lot of really talented nepo babies out there. I mean, like, Maya Hawke, Margaret Qualley, Kieran Culkin, Willow Smith, bro. When I think about Willow Smith, I start to understand why Will Smith was so mad when Chris Rock slapped his wife. Chris Rock, in fact, did not slap Will Smith's wife. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why. I put it in the script, too. That wasn't me, like, saying something wrong. I think I just might be stupid. No, Chris Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife, and then Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. So, yeah. Excuse my interruption, but I just needed to make that clear. Really dead old callback, I know, but how dare you slap the woman that created the girl that made Whip My Hair? Okay, I knew Willow Smith before I knew what a Will Smith was. In fact, one can make the assumption that no, Willow Smith isn't a nepo baby, but her parents, rather, are nepo parents. She's made other good and more recent music, but unfortunately, I'm a loser that listens to loser music. Watch this. Green Day. Our monkeys. Charlie. See? I can't even say their names. That's how bad it is. AJR. Guess they aren't cool then. That's not to say that all nepo babies are as talented as Willow Smith. They aren't. Most people aren't. Okay, crystal clear, to be completely crystal, I don't know a lot about Willow Smith. I just know that she wrote and sang Whip My Hair, which was a staple of my childhood, and I feel like I'm talking about Willow Smith's song Whip My Hair a lot. Do you guys feel that? Because I feel that. I feel as though that I should stop talking about Willow Smith's song Whip My Hair. Do you guys think that too? Do you guys think that I should stop talking about Willow Smith's song Whip My Hair? Comment down below if you think that I should stop talking about Willow Smith's song Whip My Hair. So, okay, it's hard for me to tell if you commented or not on account of the fact that this is not a live stream, so I'm just gonna trust you, viewer. Thank you. Nepo babies are truly all over the place. I've said this in a previous video, but being famous isn't all that hard once you're actually famous, outside of the lack of privacy. But, like, before you're famous, you have to get over this hump. Because, let's face it, a casting director would much rather cast somebody already famous than someone not famous, no matter how good of an actor that already famous person is. But nepo babies don't have to deal with that. They're born over the hump. That's why you get kids like Northwest singing The Lion King at the Hollywood Bowl. I'm not gonna blame a kid, obviously. But Kim K, when I get you. Nepo babies are not the only form of nepotism, obviously. There's another version of it that I like to call self-nepotism. Oh, you mean just being famous? Yeah, I do mean that. Not really. When I say self-nepotism, I don't mean favoritism in your industry because you're famous. I mean that, like, when you're famous in one industry and then decide, let's try this new thing to make more money, and then move to another industry and automatically become well-known in that industry because you were famous in the last one. Self-nepotism isn't spoken about much because most of the time, self-nepotism turns out fine. Sabrina Carpenter, who went from acting to singing. James Marriott, who went from YouTube to singing. Those are my only 2 examples. Oddly, though, I see this the most with YouTubers. I'm not talking about YouTube to singing or acting to singing or what have you, because a lot of the times, those swaps of industries are just, like, passion projects. I'm talking about the goddamn business bros. Lunchly and Prime and the like are not topics that there's a lack of videos on YouTube. Lunchly, a Lunchly's copycat owned by Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, and KSI, was released on September 16th of 2024. It included a Prime, which is like worse Gatorade, a Mr. Beast bar, which is not a vape pen, wouldn't put it past him though, and similarly to Lunchables, a variety of different kinds of main courses. The thing that pisses me off about this isn't really the fact that it exists, outside of the fact that it existing further pushes the idea that this collection of YouTubers is only in it for the money, as if that already wasn't obvious with the NFT game, CryptoZoo, that Logan tried to make, which isn't exactly a good thing in a content creation space like YouTube. What pisses me off about Lunchly is the branding. It was advertised in a video tweeted out by Logan Pail, and in the video, they absolutely gassed up Lunchly, making claims that it was far healthier than their competitor, that it had less calories and more protein and less sugars, and that the cheese was real. And guess what else? The drink that comes with it has more liquid. I don't really know if they meant that last part as, like, a good thing, as for why Lunchly is better than Lunchables. More Prime isn't a good thing, but that's just my opinion. The idea behind it was that it was healthier than Lunchables. It's like a more stable source of grab-and-go food. The problem with that being that it was marketed towards kids, because that's who watched the owners of the company, and yet they made the product have less calories. I get that in today's diet culture, less calories is automatically seen as better for you because you have to stay skinny, and because every 1 ounce of fat on your body shortens your life by 10 years. However, guys, newsflash, kids need calories. Like they need calories so much that there are entire companies built on a kid's need for calories. Want to know why? Because they grow. They're always growing. That's like the thing that they do. You're marketing towards kids. Oh, but what if an adult or a teen that stopped growing eats it? That is not feeding a whole adult or a teen. I hate to break it to you. One of the biggest reasons that Lunchables are seen as, like, not healthy, like, at all, like, is because of how processed their food is, primarily their cheese. Do you want to know why it's processed so much, though? To make the shelf life longer. Do you want to know what happens if something like Lunchables wants to stay relatively cheap but not be processed? Mold. You want to know what Lunchly has? Mold! I actually don't know if mold has been found in Lunchly's recently, because I haven't seen them online much, but, nepotism isn't always this great, amazing thing, though. It can be a big help if you're in the film part of the industry, or only in it to make money, but when you're a content creator through YouTube, or Twitch, or etc., and you're doing it because you're passionate about it, nepotism can come at a fault. I don't have a specific example for this, mostly because I feel like it would be an insult to anyone I would mention, but I can't help but, like, feel a little annoyed for someone trying to be a content creator that has a content creator sibling, or friend, or spouse, or whatever. Because what ends up happening, not all the times, just a lot of times, is that people that are friends of a content creator will learn that there's some other creator who's usually smaller out there, who has a close connection to that content creator. Then they flood the creator with followers, not because of their content, but because of the connection that creator has to the first content creator. That second content creator will end up with, like, 1 billion followers, but not as many views, because a large majority of their followers aren't following them because they like the content, if that makes sense. Okay, just to clear things up, obviously, the smaller content creator can still gain from that nepotism because of the algorithm or whatever, will push the creator's content more if they have a bunch of subscribers, and then hopefully more people that do actually like their content will find their content, but, I don't know, I just wanted to make that clear. That is a really small thing, though. It doesn't happen often enough for me to keep talking about it. I just thought I'd mention it, okay? The next thing that I'll be talking about is material nepotism. And it actually isn't nepotism at all, I just can't think of anything else to call it. Please don't judge. Nepotism isn't nearly the only thing in the entertainment industry that can make it easier for someone to reach the fame that they're aiming for, though it does usually have the most success. I'm sure the first thing that comes to mind for some people is plain, flat money, which obviously, yes, There's this really odd stigma about the entertainment industry because what people like to say is that you do not need fancy equipment. You don't need to spend a bunch. You can make content with a microwave and even be successful with it. The harsh truth, though, is that it's kind of a little bit of a misleading lie. You can make content off of your phone. Duh. Take me, for example, back when I first started doing YouTube about 2 or 3 years ago, pretty much everything was done on my phone aside from the script, which I had on my school iPad. I don't know why they won't give us laptops. Don't ask. I recorded on photos, I edited on CapCut, I sat with my phone as it took 30 hours to upload, and it was pretty good content, in my opinion, for what it was. You are able to make content with a phone. This is true. Content that reaches a lot of people, though, it really depends. People like to point to older YouTubers that were successful, like Smosh, because Smosh's videos, when they started, were not all professional, and the quality of both the camera and the mic was just okay, but the videos were still really popular, the only difference being that the early days of Smosh were also the early days of YouTube, whereas now, the competition is people with entire production teams, and seemingly limitless amounts of money, and shorts makers that are able to post 10 times an hour. It is possible to be successful without a big fancy setup and or a lot of money, but you gotta be really resilient and really consistent and like funnier than anybody. Or like, I don't know, whatever your content is, just like more. Simple access to equipment is another big thing, and that's the reason that the whole Edu Filmfest thing was so frustrating. The school that a lot of the selected and nominated and winning films came from was an art school that deals with film and physical media and theater. So obviously students there are going to have free access to expensive equipment and a lot of actors and, I don't know, costume designers, maybe. That's why the favoritism of these students, whether that be accidental or not, was so disheartening. They're student filmmakers. They fit the requirements, but they also have access to stuff that not every filmmaker, especially student filmmaker, has access to. I mean, Abby literally thought about, like, quitting her dream of being a filmmaker because of what happened at the Edu Filmfest. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm a victim of this. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber that has the privilege to have a fancy computer and a fancy mic and a fancy webcam and free access to not only Premiere Pro because of my school, but also the biggest green screen you've ever seen in your life. It is so unbelievably annoying and unfortunate that the only way to go about things on YouTube or otherwise is to have good equipment and to make generic videos about topics that 900 people have already made videos about. I wish it wasn't like this. I'll be transparent in saying that my goal as a YouTuber is to reach the level of fame that like Markiplier has, in which I can make a video about whatever I want and still have people see it, because that's what I am. I want to entertain people. That's like but I also want to entertain myself and talk about Pokemon. But the last time I talked about Pokemon, I talked about Pokemon for 9 minutes or something, and that video flopped like crazy. I learned my lesson. Point of this video, there's a lot of different pushes and pulls in content creation. Despite what I said earlier, I do actually think that it is possible for someone with zero equipment besides a phone to be successful at doing this. It just won't be easy, usually. I want more people to have shitty setups and be successful with them. That way more people can have the confidence to know that they can do it, and that, hopefully, YouTube can be revived to what it once was, where two friends can sing Pokemon and 10 years later have a whole production company off of it. Okay, that's all for today's video. Not to be a giant, big, huge hypocrite, but speaking of nepotism, I'm gonna put Abby's film account in the description if you want to watch VITIATE. Go check her out if you're interested in short films. She's my goat. If you're a smaller, aspiring YouTuber or filmmaker, then promote yourself. Promote yourself in the comments, please. I want to be a little stepping stone in making YouTube, not filled with Mr. Beast and people that make videos entirely by AI. That would be really nice. Those AI videos, not to sound like every person ever, those AI videos that one guy makes that I don't remember the name of, are creepy and bad, and let's not, okay? Let's not. Before I go, wow, I didn't even kind of expect my last video to blow up as much as it did, so thank you. When I was writing that script, I swear to God, I was convinced that nobody would care about the topic and that video would get 2 views. But then I woke up to 20,000 views, like 2 days after it was posted, so thanks! Subscribe and like the video if you haven't already, because it puts a smile on my face. Aww. Alright, you were all great. My name is Third. Guten, bye.